To the Unknown Pod. We are glad to have you here. My name is Jordan. I'm here with Ashua, Ryan, and Matt. We are friends. We are Bitcoiners. We are either are or have been in ministry in various ways. We're small business owners. We do a bunch of things. And basically, again, to give you an idea, this podcast, what we do, we come in every week and we spend time on Twitter. And so rather than just let that time just fall into the abyss, we want to redeem that time. And so we take it, we bring tweets that we found that we think would be helpful, whether on the level of a father, as husbands, as just men, as business owners, whatever it is. We bring them here, we kind of share them, and then just get each other's opinions on them, and we enjoy it. So we're just going to jump right into things. We're going to stop doing so much introduction like we've done in the past. One of the first things that we want to mention here, for those of you who might not know, we have one little bit of business, and that is that. Let me share this here because I share.
Here goes the shill.
Death. Here comes the shill.
Coming.
We have to start with the shill, of course. We have the Orange Umbrella Kickstarter. This is the first kids book offered by Thank God for Bitcoin, TTUP Media, where I am the director. We are, look at this, 86% of the way funded. We have 6 days to go. Hop over here if this interests you at all. It's a Bitcoin kids book that doesn't mention the B word. It's designed to be a covert orange pill for those of you who have family members, nieces and nephews who you want to help understand Bitcoin. It's a great little book. The whole thing rhymes. It's got Christian undertones for those of you who, again, want to and value that as well. So come over here. We've got over 104 backers. We really want to get this up to 12,500 so that we can get this funded. It's an all or nothing thing with Kickstarter.
So, hey, Jordan, come clean. Is there a hidden Jesus pill in there too?
Oh, well, yes, there absolutely is a hidden Jesus pill. If you're a Christian and you read this book, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So, this is one of these things where it's, again, all of it's subtle. All of it's subtle, but it's very clear. And so, I just think if you have Bitcoiners in your life who you want to hear a good story, then it's great. If you have, again, just Christians in your life, they're going to appreciate the Jesus level of the story as well. Again, it stands alone, even if you didn't know there was anything about Bitcoin. It's a great story. Would love to get it into more people's hands. So that's one way you can support the pod. You can support what we're doing. Go subscribe or grab your copy today. We've got a bunch of different options that are denominated in sats. Thanks to the Opportunity Cost app or browser extension. Go grab that and denominate your whole life in Bitcoin. And again, shill over. Go for it. Shill over, guys. What are we going to talk about today? I believe we've talked about this. We have this nailed down. The forgotten cost. Or the forgotten foundations of wealthy families. That's kind of what we decided to talk about. So let's just hop right in. Here we go. We found this tweet from one of our favorite Twitter follows of recent weeks has been the De-Christian Life. I don't know why they chose that name. I need to hear more.
What does that even mean?
I do not know, but it is a fantastic account. Just about, so many of the things that they're posting are just fantastic, very helpful, challenging to us as men, and so here we are. We're going to share this here.
Well, the biggest difference between your family and a wealthy family is something that's been forgotten now for about 3 generations, and that is that the wealthy families band and bind themselves together to build wealth. But now we've been programmed by media, and in fact, the same wealthy people that don't want competition, we should strike out on our own, and we should do it together, then lead family, let them fend for themselves. You're an independent, you're on your own, you're powerful that way. No, you're weakened that way. How does that make any sense that you're powerful by yourself? Only together, in partnership, in community, in family, does that make any sense that we can band together and win in this very, very difficult game called commercial life? And is it any wonder that all the mega rich came from family money? Some of these families have been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, generations of wealth that are handed down. It kind of doesn't matter whether it's the corporate structure method or the trust method or the waterfall method. It's that they've all banded together. And some of you are like, I hate my family. Well, that's your personal problem. That you should probably solve that or get yourself a new family, because it's so impossible for the average person to get ahead by themselves. But with a family together, it doesn't have to be your family, but in a family environment, That's when you multiply your chances of massive success for not just you, but for them and your entire community.
Man. Was that yours, Jordan? What's the profound
You're on
idea
mute,
behind
Jordan.
Yeah, that was mine. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, I think that the thing that just appealed to me on this front is again, some of there's this famous story from David Foster Wallace, who's a writer, a couple decades ago, and he basically told a story about these two fish that are swimming in the water, and this older fish is swimming by them and says to them, "Hey boys, how's the water today?" And the two fish go, "What's water?" And it just talks about how the fact that there's for especially those of us who are younger, or when we're younger, there's these realities that exist that are just they're so pervasively effective on us, influence us so pervasively that we don't even recognize they're there. We just take for granted that this is just reality. This is just all we've ever known. And one of the ways in which you can apply this is that we live in a super individualistic culture right now.
Yep.
And part of that is just by virtue of at least in the United States and the West, by virtue of the wealth that we have, and the fact that we have monetary stability to degrees that has, rarely been and scarcely been experienced throughout all of human history, and so we're able to survive and get by ourselves with one income, or as a family with two incomes, husband and wife. We can live in many ways without needing to rely monetarily to the same extent that many other people did in the past. And so I think one of the things that this brings out is just the fact that, again, although that's possible, you still leave a ton of things on the table, a ton of things are a lot harder than they would necessarily need to be because of that. And so I think that just hearing somebody speak to just the reality of how things actually still work today and at the wealthiest levels, and how things have worked all throughout human history is just a very good and needed reminder or lesson to those of us who haven't grown up where those kind of dynamics are understood. So anybody else? What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, dude, I have a story that kind of illustrates it well. After high school, and then after I started life, and it was tough, just like, in a sense, starting from scratch. I didn't go into the family business. My dad was a dentist. But yeah, I wasn't interested in doing that. And so in a sense, it was like I was starting all over again, and I didn't have, there was no family enterprise to jump into. But I had a buddy of mine who was in the same situation. And so I remember we were talking on the phone one day, and he was telling me that he was just about done with college, and he was going to be an investment advisor, like Edward Jones or something like that. And I was just like, I'm like, dude, have you ever thought about just going to school for a couple more years and just taking over your dad's dental practice? And he's just like, literally had this massive light bulb moment right as we're talking. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, if you're like, I don't want to do it personally, but like, if you're interested, that's like one of the like best opportunities you could imagine, because like that's the hardest thing about getting started in a medical career is like, if you have a family member, like if your parent owns the practice and you're just taking it over, you work with them first, you get free training, and then you buy them out, and it's like an incredible thing. Dude, he like literally 1 month later, he was enrolled in dental school, meets his wife at dental school. Now they both came back and took over the dad's practice. It was probably one of the most profound, but like it illustrated it, because I have other friends who also went into that path, and it's like they end up signing themselves up for 10, 20 years of debt just to even get started. And people don't understand, like, those hurdles, like they can set a person back a decade or two trying to get over those initial hurdles, where a family that's intentional about how they do things
Yep.
can help their own children like skip that 10 or 20 year
Yep.
uh, period. And it's not a bad thing. Like and it's what's crazy. I kind of feel like we've turned it into this. Uh, it's almost like we shame people for talking about it. And it's like no, like there's nothing shameful about being like strong position financially and being able to provide for your family and it's literally just like being physically healthy. Like there's nothing shameful about it. Like take care of your anyways, yeah. So I 100% agree. I think, but yeah, it's hard to learn everything for the first time. Like if you weren't born into a family where like your parents had that vision. And I think probably, I don't know, all four of us are probably somewhere in that camp. Um, but yeah, there's no time like today to change the course for our children. So
Yeah, and I think another thing is like, it's just like I think about all these farmers, right? There's all these people who were farmers over the last 40, 50 years. They have all these farms, they have all this land, and so much of them, the story that you hear over and over again is that these like they get to the second generation, like their kids stayed on the farm, their kids helped, their kids, made that their career, and it's this third generation that doesn't want to stay there
yeah,
that has seen it has been indoctrinated with this message of you have to go to college, you have to go, this is how you get ahead, and in so many cases it's literally just here, no, here, I want to put shackles on you and enslave you into debt, and actually this is the one type of debt that you can't actually declare bankruptcy on. So we're going to take the one kind of debt that you can't declare bankruptcy on and give it to the most vulnerable people right as they're launching off into the world. It's insane. It's just like when you actually objectively take a step back and look at it, you're just like, what in the world? And so to turn down, like being part of your turning down this legacy that your family has left for you, and just basically selling it off and saying I don't want that, and then they're selling it off either to strangers or to large corporations. Like it is just a staggeringly sad reality. It is just so frustrating in terms of just in terms of this source of wealth and source of experience that again that's the other side of things is so much of experience is so much of a life lived. The goal of that is that you're able to pass down these lessons and be able to take what you've learned and help people who are coming behind you, especially your kids, learn things about the world as a result. And this kind of dynamic just completely breaks that. And it's basically it teaches kids to look at their parents as like, oh, there's this, they think in this old way. I don't, there's these parents and grandparents as irrelevant. It renders their experience irrelevant, and it renders it just creates this temptation to despise all of this real life experience that has provided for generations of your family. It's super frustrating, especially when you see again all the debt that results and just the long-term consequences of this thinking.
no.
It's just frustrating.
I want to add one more thing. I will say that it wasn't just that third generation rejected, like took it for granted and rejected it. There was also a very real, there were some very big mistakes that those older generations made in how they balanced their time. Like they
Yep.
were extremely hard. Like so, I'll say it was the great. They call it the greatest generation. It was like our grandparents basically. They were extremely hardworking, but they worked too much and sacrificed their families oftentimes. Working 16 hours a day, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
like 7 days a week, and ground themselves into the ground, with working even up until they died sometimes. And I've actually had conversations with a local farmer, multi-generational farmer, who said straight up, I will not go down the path that my grandfather and father went down. And it was this thing, but so it is, but that's also sad because they were doing well, but they could have done much better in the sense that it's balancing, like you can't work too much. Like you have to work on your family more, and so it could have been different, where it was balancing those things. But ultimately, the end result is if you don't do it well, then the kids will just say, "I don't want this at all. I want a completely different life," and they reject it all. And that's also literally just as sad. Because like you said, it all doesn't get passed down. They miss out on the benefits. There's, but.
Yeah, I feel like one of the examples you look at in the ancient world, and I'll use Jesus and Paul as an example, but it wasn't just them. It was the vibe back then. They had a trade when they were teenagers. And so that I think this ties into some of our previous discussions where some of the entrapment, even in the spiritual community, in the pastoral community, missionaries, all that kind of stuff. I haven't lived it, but I've talked to people who are just like, I need a break. My family needs a break. This and that. But you're in the sort of church industrial system, and it's like, unless you go back to school for another degree, unless you change your mission field, unless you change, your church or whatever, you went through and you're trapped in it. And just to say, that's the spiritual side, ministry side, but that's true in every area. Is they had a bankable skill probably by the time they were like 16 or 17. And that hasn't actually gone away. Both Osh and Ryan know like Dean Krakauer and other people on the island here who have mentored up welders and carpenters and stuff like that from 13 and on, and their own kids from younger than that, who have gone on to start their own businesses, heavy machinery, tree cutting, all these other things, which offer a freedom to, in Paul's case, for instance, to minister and full-time, do his thing spiritually, or on the other hand, to say, these guys won't trust me if I ask for money, so I'm going to work like all the rest of the people and set an example. And he tells, I think it's the Ephesians, he tells them, we never ate a piece of bread without paying for it, you know? And my way of looking at, I believe it's in Ephesians, no, I'm sorry, I think it's in Acts 20, when he talks to the church as he's about to leave. I think he brought in his guys, Timothy, Titus, those kind of guys, into his business, because he says, neither I nor anyone who came with me took anything from you, but we provided for ourselves, and I'm set to set you an example. So maybe I don't know if that's not too much of a bunny trail to say something's wrong with the idea that, like, from a young age, people are not being raised up with skills, and these trade skills are not antithetical to an intellectual life. They're not antithetical at all. They can lay the foundation for the freedom, maybe even the freedom to speak the truth when it's uncomfortable, when you might be pressured otherwise.
Jordan, could you share the Dale Partridge post that just goes right alongside this?
Oh, shoot. Which one? I didn't see that one.
I just put it in the studio chat.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Hold on 1 second. Coming at you.
Okay. I'll start reading this.
Do it.
So he says, the reason most children move away is because their parents never gave them a reason to stay. If you want your children to grow up, stay local, and build upon your family legacy, here's how to do it. 1, provide them a faithful and deeply connected local church. When children are members of the same congregation throughout their childhood, they develop strong relational bonds, making it difficult to imagine leaving when they grow up. 2, provide them with real estate, whether it's a home, land, or a down payment. Giving your children a place to live will encourage them to stay close. Ideally, purchase a larger family property, 15 plus acres, to host a few generations. 3, provide them with a business to take over. You can't hand down a job. It's wise to build a successful business that your children can inherit and scale for future generations. And then finally, 4, provide them with an educational experience or school for their children that allows them to share in the same traditions, moments, and milestones that once shaped their own lives. A church, a home, a business, and a school, these are the building blocks of life. A strong, multi-generational minded patriarch will thoughtfully provide these for his children and grandchildren. So yeah, I found that this week. a lot of what we've already been talking about. I think the school piece. I mean, you can if you choose to home educate, you still need an educational community.
Yeah.
I think having other young people where you can learn around, and having other educating moms to support the mother of your kids that's trying to educate them really goes a long way. So I would say I agree with all this, and I think that business idea, like having gone into the ministry where I could hand off like things I learned, but it's not actually, I can't hand over a ministry necessarily, right? So there's just so much to be said for having a business and the value of inviting the family into that, and then having something to give your kids. And then just one last thought is related to, I mean, real estate and how generous you are with your kids when you're young. I was hanging out with this other family, and they have, we're talking about college and how much they give to their kids and all that. And they're like, oh yeah, like on their own. They're going to have to pay for it. They're going to figure it out. They're going to take out their loans and all that. And there's certainly ways that you can not require enough of your of your kids and make it too easy for them and trust baby kind of pacifier action. But I would commend setting up your kids well to the best of your ability. And I think helping them buy a house. I mean, it goes to the real estate conversation, to what if Bitcoin is your hurdle rate and is the thing that you're like, well, why would I be in real estate if I can buy in Bitcoin? But what if real estate wasn't an investment? What if it was really about having that sanctuary for multi-generational living, multi-generational legacy? So I think in that reason, you want real estate. The problem is it's monetized as a savings mechanism, so it's overpriced, right? So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts both about this post as well as how you weigh not the investment value of things like business and real estate, but the intrinsic, non-tangible family value of those kind of things.
I would just add real quick, one of the things, like when I hear somebody say that they're not going to, like somebody who's got money who says that they're not going to give the kids are on their own, like one of the things that comes to mind is the instruction to fathers not to provoke their children to wrath. And I just think like there's a whole generation of baby boomers and the people who come, they're people coming behind them. I don't know who that is, Generation X, whoever. But just coming behind them who, a lot of the baby boomers don't understand the economic realities of like with currency devaluation and like what that's done. They don't understand those dynamics. And so they just assume that, oh, well then, my kids' experience and my grandkids' experience is just like mine. And it's like, no, I mean, literally all you had to do was buy a house at, dirt cheap prices and just not be an idiot. And you pretty much could be a millionaire. Like that's really true. If
you don't even need a business.
Yeah, just stick money in the stock market and don't be an idiot, and you can be a millionaire. Like that's literally what was able to happen for a whole generation of people. And so to act like, I did this, and so now you're on your own, and I'm not giving you anything. Like I just would have issues with that. Like that just seems like you're potentially beyond how reasonable is it. Also, just like it seems like a real way to provoke your children by if they see their dad and their mom like sitting on all this money, and they just recognize like you're not really willing to help me out. Obviously, now again, there's 100 ways in which you could caveat this and situations in which the opposite would need to be true. Like no one debates this. But like the attitude is kind of what I'm getting at more than anything. Like if you are a parent, like one of the ways in which one of the things that you're called to do is to embody God as Father. Like God is the Father from whom every family in heaven and earth is named. And so for you to take this authority that in this biological reality that God has given you, this role that God has given you, and to steward it in that way seems completely out of touch with how God operates with us. Like he doesn't just, just demand that we operate on our own. Like, in fact, that's one of the things he wrestles with us to do, is to depend on him. And so again, there's ways in which it can go wrong, that you do want to be careful about. But I think some of the attitude that I've heard from a lot of people, it seems like they're missing the mark.
Yeah, I think the raising up too is not just a lump thing. Like, here's a house, congratulations. Here's a business, congratulations. That's not even necessarily what they need. They may need, especially as a young family, that's the highest stress for a young family is finances.
Yeah.
And if you can say, hey, we're gonna be, mom and dad are gonna come watch the kids, so you guys can go on dates and make more babies. We're gonna help you with a down payment on a house. Maybe not the house. We're gonna help you by transferring the business to you on payments, but we're going to show you how to succeed so you can make those payments. That's an example where it can be still discipling, still requiring that level of work and showing up in management, which I've said before many times. The parables Jesus gave, it's the good manager, the good steward, the good manager. God leaves us his garden. God leaves us his... In fact, one of the parables, how do you treat your workers? He returns for judgment, and he goes, "Oh, look, you've been taking care of my property, and you've been you've been managing well. You've been treating people well. And for those who didn't, they're cut up into pieces and thrown into outer darkness." If you want to look that one up, but to not just give it is not even what they necessarily need, but to make them empowered to be able to do it.
Yeah, I had a conversation with an elder in our church a couple of weeks ago about this, because he is that patriarch who had that vision for his family, and he bought a very large property that several of his kids are living on now, and even his grandkids. And he had some interesting comments. I don't remember everything he said, but one thing that did stick out is it doesn't always work out to have a multi-generational property in the long term, but that piece of property can definitely be used on the short term as a massive blessing. So, for example, one of his grandsons just got married, and they're living on the property in it's kind of like a Puna style starter shack kind of cabin type of situation. But like, when you can live basically rent free for maybe a year or 2 or 3, like, you can save up an enormous amount of money for maybe to build your own house. So it's like, and what is that? That's like, it's helping free them up to flourish. And I would say that's part of God's creation mandate for us. Like, we innovate and we improve things in this world to make it so that the next generation doesn't exactly have to, like, that their work looks a little bit differently. And and as you were talking, the illustration that popped into my head was like, well, like, we created plumbing so so people didn't have to walk down to a river and spend half the day doing laundry and washing clothes. Like, should we want the next generation to still have to do that, or are we okay with having plumbing where the water gets piped up to the house, but then but they're not going to learn how to work? We still need to raise our children to be good stewards and work hard and be faithful, but that frees them up to spend a half a day training their kids or having kids or doing other higher, more noble tasks, and we should celebrate that. But for some reason, there's this disconnect, I feel like, and it's like one of those things, like the first video that we were watching, you get shamed, it's this shameful thing that it's so weird, but it's that families would actually work together for each other's flourishing, and you're just like, no, that's you're a cult,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, actually, you're just doing what God's created us to do, Anyways,
I got a quick anecdote. So I reached out to shout out One-Legged Canadians, Dave Warren, who was a
he literally only has one leg.
Okay.
It's not like
I need a little bit more explanation on the fact of what is a one-legged Canadian.
Okay, so and he was a patron. I would call him a patron for my family, where we didn't ask, we didn't try. We were just, they came alongside us in the church, saw what we were doing with our small business. No aspirations to open a restaurant. We were just there doing community, and came alongside and said, "Hey, we want to talk to you guys. What do you think about opening a shop in right in the village? You know, you have 3 days to respond." That that's Dave. So we said yes, and this is a good example where they went out, they bought this, they put a bid down that they're like, only if the Lord wills will we ever get this. They got it. Over time, they handed off the process to me, where I was responsible for building it up, for getting the permits, for all this other stuff. And in the end, they signed over the rest of the property to us.
Wow.
Which, by the way, we still had to come up and pay that thing off, $3,000+ a month. So it wasn't like it was a lump sum. Here's like $1 million. It was like, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you rise to the occasion, then you can. And look, we own this at this point. We own the property outright, and I'm working with someone to try and to take over what we did. And if God wills, I'll try to be generous in the same way that Dave was generous to me. And I just chatted with him yesterday to come out, and visit us, and take one of my pulpit days. And it looks like he's going to do that. So he's going to come visit us after a decade. But this is something that we can. It's real, and I want to try to solve a little bit of the demographic crisis right now in America. I know it's not a arithmetic, guys, but if you're out there and you're afraid of having kids, these kind of opportunities come at you as you have kids, not before, usually. So start doing righteous deeds, start having those kids, and you'll be surprised there actually are a lot of people out there that want to help you. And this speaks to the video, how he said, if it isn't your family, find a new family. I don't think he means abandon your family in the video. It's like there's still people out there that want to help. And what is the rare? My little call almost every time we get together. The good steward is the rarest thing in the world. It's not real estate. It's not money. And if you make yourself into a good steward, I think you'll find out that these kind of things come your way just by getting out there.
It's like the Naval quote. It's not the information, or it's not the it's not information that's scarce. It's the stewards it's the stewards that are scarce, or the stewards of information that are scarce.
Well, that's what Jesus. Sorry, Naval. The laborers are few.
He gets it from Jesus. He borrows it.
Yeah, Naval, we still love to have you on the pod. Go for it. We'll get it at some point. Speaking of that, speaking of working, just an opportunity being the thing that, that we can be called to give to people. Let me just share this right here. It is. Oh my gosh, my children are doing something. I don't know what it is, but it is very loud. Here we go. Let me find this. Here we go. There we go.
All right. My favorite quote outside of the Bible is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, one of the 5 great Caesars. Yeah. Right. And one of the co-founders of the Stoic philosophy. And he said in 600 BC.
Okay, he did not say this in 600 BC. His timing is incorrect, but the quote apparently is real. So just want to preemptively say that.
That the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is the way.
I just think this is a brilliant quote. It's a brilliant just idea of just thinking about like so many of the things that are in your life. You're like, man, I wish I could just get rid of this thing. And many times, again, it's almost like there's a God who's just like putting these things in your life to help you to grow and to help you to learn to just continue to fight harder. And again, like there obviously are times where you will come up against things, and there'll be something in your life that it is just like, man, I just need this thing to move. And, but the lesson that you're taking from this is like, I'm fighting against this thing. I'm trying to push this boulder up the hill. It's not working. But again, throughout this process of trying to push this giant boulder up the hill, you're getting stronger. You're getting stronger. You're learning more about yourself. You're learning more about all these different things. And so again, just this reality, it just spoke to me, and I just thought it was just such an encouraging and true thing.
I've listened to so many business stories because it's interesting to me on like the How I Built This podcast, for instance, and I haven't seen one without the wilderness and without the dark night of the soul. Not even one.
Yep.
And a lot of times the story, like there's one with Starbucks, I won't take the whole pod to talk about it, but he came to where he was going to lose it, period. Someone outbid him.
Man.
And literally out of the blue, you must know this story, Jordan.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Out of the blue, one of the Microsoft founder guys calls him up into his office, you know, is this all true, what I heard? Guy says, yeah, it's true. Tells him the story. He says, okay, walks in the other room, does whatever, makes a phone call. He calls the guy who had outbid, I can't remember the Starbucks founder's name right at the moment, but he calls somebody
Howard
and says,
Howard Schultz.
yeah, it was Howard
And
Schultz.
the guy
He
who
calls
was talking to was Bill Gates' dad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he calls the guy, you know, rich guy to other rich guy, you're not buying this. You know, he outbid him, and he's like...
He walked into his office. Him and Howard Schultz, so Bill Gates' dad and Howard Schultz walked into the dude's office who had stolen this bid from him, stolen this.
Hey,
this
outbid
idea.
him. It's fair. It's the market. He just outbid
exactly.
him. Okay, let's be nice.
And so whatever, Bill Gates' dad walked in there and said, "You're not going to buy this." Looked at him and said, "Do you understand?" And he goes, "Yeah, I understand." Because again, Bill Gates' dad was super influential in Seattle or whatever.
And that was like a $6 million buy. That's $6 million. Without that one completely out of the blue interaction, no Starbucks. So no Starbucks, no other cafes. That was the thing that made America have cafes. So we can hate on the big doggy all we want, but that was the story when they weren't big. And by the way, that's the story. And going back to the script to Bible, how often is steadfastness considered like one of the highest qualities? And I can't help but think of the fruits of the Spirit end off with self-control, which I'm not a Greek guy like Osh, but as I understand it, that can be translated self-mastery also. So men, we should be aspiring to self-mastery so that we can push through when other people fall back, because dudes like that guy are watching. You don't know they're watching, but they're watching, and at some point they'll come and do the assist.
Yes, be a master of your domain.
All right, we have another
Little Seinfeld there. I see that.
A little Seinfeld.
Oh man.
To those who have ears, let them hear.
I didn't pick that one up. All right, we have another one about family. We have another tweet about family. This is from Michael Foster, pastor of a church in Ohio, author, one of the best Twitter follows. If you're not following him, he does these fantastic, super long either tweets or tweet threads that I've just really appreciated the last couple of years.
He drops Foster Fire.
That's right.
Regularly.
He's also a friend. He's also a friend of the program. I spoken at the TGFB podcast or TGFB conference a couple of years ago. So here it is right here. I'll just read this. Or Ash, was this yours?
I mean, it is. I already read one though.
Okay. All right, I'll read it. Here we go. The kids in a big family don't all grow up with the same parents, even when they share the same mom and dad. Time is a way of working on people. Parents aren't exempt. By the time the youngest arrives, mom and dad are changed, sometimes softer, sometimes harder, sometimes both. That can help or hurt. Usually it does a little bit of each. Our kids came in waves. I think he's got like seven or eight kids. Our kids came in waves. The first three were boys, born about 2 years apart. That was wave one. Then came Nicaea, our daughter. She died. Her death split the timeline. It created a silence between the children that we had and the ones that still to come. Then, to our surprise, another girl. She began wave two. After her came Cedar, then Cyprian. Last came the ones we thought we were done wave. Serene and Fox. From our oldest to our youngest, nearly 18 years span the gap. Long enough for a family to become a living record. Each child carries a piece of who we were, and we carry the weight of who we've become because of them. In the early years, we were wide-eyed and wound tight. We didn't want to mess it up. Our kids got our time. But the fuel behind it wasn't just love, it was fear. I'd play with them for hours, then lie in bed convinced I hadn't done enough. One of my bigger regrets is how often we spanked. That's how we were taught. It wasn't the only tool we used, but it was the one always within reach. And while I see strength and loyalty in our older children, I also see a tension in them. A need to control things, a current of anxiety. I can't pretend it isn't connected to how often we reach for the rod. I've had to tell them more than once when they ask why the younger kids don't get spanked as much. I had to say it plain. We spanked you too much. Please forgive us. Still, a lot went right. They ran wild in creeks, threw balls in open fields, listened to bedtime stories almost every night, though not with the orange umbrella. I will say that. Maybe that was part of the problem. They were raised in the church. They learned the Bible and the catechism. And they had a dad who somehow kept going on 5 hours of sleep. I was strong then and stubborn and driven, but we were young and scared. That fear shaped more than we saw at the time. The world splits history between AD and BC. Our family splits before and after Nicaea. I said it a lot about her already, so I'll just say this. Her death broke something in me, and that break let in something deeper. I learned how to hurt, how to hold grief and not try to fix it, and that changed how we raised our children. We grew slower to anger. We didn't stop spanking altogether, but it wasn't the go-to anymore. We started reasoning more, taking things away, explaining, not just reacting. And yes, we probably overcorrected. That's what people do. Our younger ones are looser, a little messier, but I don't see the same nervous energy in them. They breathe easier. I'm not as one-on-one attentive as I used to be. I can't be. I'm outnumbered, but I found new ways to stay close. Family dinners, family movie nights, rides to work. I've traded intensity for steadiness, and something better has grown in its place. If you age right, you mellow in some places and sharpen in others. When you're young, everything feels big. You chase every little thing, but age teaches you what matters. You see men you once looked up to raise vipers. You watch good intentions rot under pride, and you realize you don't have the bandwidth to do it all, so you start pruning. You cut what doesn't bear fruit, and you cling to what does. Pareto's principle shows up. 20% of what you do brings 80% of the fruit. You learn to keep the main things and let the rest go. That's how you settle down without giving up. That's how you get sharp without becoming brittle. Every good parent carries regret. Anyone who says otherwise is lying or too proud to know better. Don't trust them. We have regrets. I'll write more later, but we don't let them win. My parents failed me in ways. I forgave them. I will fail my kids. I hope they do the same. If not, their day will come. They'll ask for forgiveness from their own children. Years from now, my oldest will tell stories to my youngest, stories the little one never heard, and the little one will tell will tell stories back, different ones. They're both time capsules. They carry pieces of who I was, good and bad, light and shadow. But if I keep repenting, if I keep leaning into grace, they'll look back with love. No one starts out knowing how to do this, so don't freeze up. Your kids don't need pristine parents. There's no such thing. As the old saying goes, God writes straight with crooked sticks. By grace, he makes saints out of sinners' children. So give them what you've got and keep chasing Christ with everything in you. Ask him to make your efforts count. If he can set a soaked altar on fire, he can work through your imperfect parenting. Keep going, mom and dad. You're not alone. God is with you, and that's enough. Dang, bro. That is a good word. Ugh.
I feel like that does describe, it describes my oldest pretty well. Like I'm super proud of her, and she's very aware of, even what was described there, how we've changed over time. The whole how it's administered method is a good point. That it's not. Well, I mean, at least it's my point. I don't know if it's his point. It's not exactly what you do exactly. I think it's about being real and about repenting to your kids whenever you have to. Doesn't have to be about spanking. It could be about being too harsh, or
too lenient.
That's right, or too lenient. Or we have one who's definitely neurologically just different from the rest. They're all different, but she's especially different. And I have to tell her when I ask her forgiveness, I don't want you to be anything different. I want you to be just who you are, who God made you. And I think for me, growing in as a dad is also growing in like sympathy for what it's like to be them, And for instance, if I provoke my child to anger, or if I provoke them by not giving them a nap when they needed to have a nap, and then I took them on a long trip, and then I took them to a wedding, like yesterday, took them to a wedding, which then it got rained out, so we're all trying to hide under little bushes to stay out of the rain, and then I don't show patience to them when we have to walk half a mile back to the car, which yesterday I think I did pretty good actually, but okay, well that's another way of provoking them. I didn't recognize how difficult it would be to be in their position and say, well, you still have to obey. Well, it's not so easy though. Yeah. So, I also think kids are they're so much smarter than we give them credit for, even as babies, that they do understand if we explain and if we remain humble and say, I'm sorry, this is what happened, this is what I should have done. They are so able to forgive and able to move on. You're not destroying them by making mistakes. But if you're proud, you might be destroying them.
Yeah, just what you just said brings to mind Psalm 103, and it says this, Psalm 103 verse 10 through, we'll read 10 through 14. It says, "He, God, does not deal with us according to our sins, nor repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his steadfast love toward those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far does he remove our transgressions from us. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him, for he knows our frame. He remembers that we are dust." And yeah, I just think that is just such a just a sobering reality of just like there's so many times where I like where I get impatient, where I'm like, I'm not thinking about their frame. I'm thinking about, no, you didn't listen, you didn't do this. And obviously there's situations in which that is the correct approach. But there's other times, again, to your point, where like actually upon reflection, I didn't set them up to succeed. I set them up to, and I required things of them that aren't reasonable for a 4-year-old when I'm a 34-year-old or 37-year-old man, and sometimes I have problems, I have issues, maintaining that standard. And so, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying, Matt.
So I found this post and then shared it with my wife this morning, and she read it, and I think I don't know which part of it brought her to tears, but she had a little bit of tears in her eyes, and we reflected a bit on this idea of storytelling. And when you have a lot of kids, so our 18-year-old so we started our family in Hawaii, and so the olders have memories of Hawaii, right? And we're realizing we have a almost 6-month-old now, and then an 18-year-old that's going to that's moving out to go to school. And so they're going to experience different things. They're going to have different stories to tell. And my wife and I really are different people than we were when we were like 23 and 24-year-old newlywed church planters. Like, it's just a different world. And each of our kids has a name that has a deep meaning that speaks to what God was teaching us and doing in our life at the time. And just a tradition and rhythm that we have as a family is every year on their birthday, we tell the story of their birth and of their name. And we speak that truth and that reality into them, that God has a purpose in your life, that you are a purposeful part of our life. And then, but all the siblings get to hear it. They know each of the stories. So yeah, I think storytelling is so important, and it's kind of like just one of those, like the post just has so many elements that connect to the deeper things in life that I feel like, yeah, it just is a lot more to chew on and reflect on, but I'm definitely thankful for it.
I think the thing that hit, I mean, I think his main point is stay humble. I think that's probably the stay humble and
Stack kids.
stack kids. Yeah, stay humble, stack kids. But I would say, like, I think I'd like to pass on a nugget of wisdom looking back, as I ponder what he wrote. So I have a 19, almost 20-year-old, and the youngest is 6. And if I could encourage a young father today, it's easy as dads to compartmentalize things and and to pick areas of life that we didn't that didn't go well for us when we were growing up. Like I wasn't disciplined enough when I was a kid, and you suffer because of that for decades, right? Because you didn't learn a lot of lessons you should have, and you weren't trained maybe the way you completely should have been. And so we try to focus on, I'm going to make sure my kids are disciplined. And it's like a garden, like their kids are like gardens, and that's like laser focusing on all their weeds, and going around always making sure that you're super diligent to snuff out and pluck those weeds up, which would be like the, spanking. But at the end of the day, it's all a balance. Like, we have to love our kids. And if I had advice to pass on, it would be like, love your kids like tangibly with time as much as possible from the earliest age possible all the way until they're out of your house. And to not think that it only matters when they're older and wiser and like they actually like you can have deep conversations with them. It's extremely important even when they're young. And so I would just say, like, those disciplines probably wouldn't have been so frequent as they were if we were more faithful, or and I'll if I was more faithful when I was first a father, spending more time with my children, like leading them in devotions more faithfully. Um, yeah, and there's nothing at the end of the day. There's nothing that you can't nothing. Um, yeah, nothing can replace just the time spent with them. Like it's really that important. So like, do whatever you can to spend time with each of your kids and pour into them and disciple them, um, and I think that really helps balance everything else out. You shouldn't have to discipline as much, and there should be a deep affection from each of your kids. If things are healthy, and um, yeah, and be humble in front of your kids and ask for forgiveness as you realize these things.
Yeah, they can really understand what's going on. Sorry, Jordan, you started, but you're muted. I'll give you an example. I lay down with my kids most nights and let Noel take the baby. And so many times, I've got work. I want to pound out maybe another hour or two of work before I go to bed. And one of them will say, "Can you lay with me tonight?" And a lot of times when I take that time, they actually have something they're thinking about, oftentimes related to the Lord even, or something that happened earlier, or they'll say things, to the point of this tweet about, you love me, and that's why you correct me, and that's why you discipline me, and if you didn't love me, then you wouldn't do that. And that, little things like that, that's like, it was in their mind, and they want me to lay next to them and talk about it for a little bit, even if it was 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so just to encourage myself as well as anyone listening, they are really little people. I mean, they're little full-orbed people. They're not like a sub-adult. They're a child. Yeah. They have all the emotions. They have all the maybe intellectually they're not grown, but they have all the intellect too. So yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful to think about. Just be honest, be real, repent probably almost every day, to your child. That'll keep you humble too. And I'm enjoying my sixth more than I enjoyed my first, not because she's better, but just because I've grown to enjoy children more too. So
yeah, there's like, I've had that realization where something like that happens where, I'm like, they're asking for one thing, but they want something different. Like, they're not asking for the thing that they actually want. And it's like, okay, dude, yeah, it's because they're 4 years old or 5 years old. Like, they don't know, they're not going to lay out for you the whole case of like what they're thinking. So you have to kind of, you have to do the work, on your part of just being like, all right, is there something more here? And like, I can't remember who it was. I think it might've been Michael yesterday too. He's like, if any of your kids is saying, Dad, look at this, Dad, look, you probably better look. And it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, we have to you have to let them come to us on their own terms. And by virtue of doing that, we might see, like, by virtue of trusting to go there, you're going to see. It's like the faith precedes sight in this example.
It's not that the game that they want to play, it's not that they really actually want to play it that much, versus they actually just want to be with you and play it with you. They want to do anything with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy for us. Like, we can be a little bit blockheaded at times, occasionally. Blockheaded.
Occasionally. That's not what Moses was telling me.
Occasionally, occasionally, yeah, every day.
I think this kind of hyperlinks over to the legacy thing earlier too, because it's like, I think my folks, to give you an example, set a pretty good example in front of me in terms of how they treated one another, in terms of like steady Christian faith. But I don't feel like I got the theology, and I don't feel like I understood what they were doing, you know? And so I think part of that, you know, one caveat I'll throw into that legacy thing is I don't think everybody is built to be a business owner. I could be wrong, but I think that there's a certain stresses there that is not for everybody.
Yeah.
But still, if I can do more things with my kids side by side, or have them help me as they get older with things, or, you know, our kid, we operate short-term rentals, which we use for hospitality also. My kids clean, they're really involved in that. You know, I pray that I'll be helping my son build things and fix things as he continues to grow side by side. That is not so abstract, but it's something where they can see, oh, I could see how this would be me when I'm a big daddy, you know, or Dad, you're so strong. Yeah, I'm strong. Guess what? I think you're even going to be stronger than me. You know, just things that are related to the legacy, and that includes, you know, bookkeeping and tax preparation and things like that are sort of abstract when you're young. But yeah, just trying to say those things hyperlink together. How can they see your example and follow it rather than just Dad provides, that's all I know, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm just trying to think. Asha's got 10 more minutes. I'm just trying to think, where should we go here? Do we want to, I mean, we've already been going for about an hour. Do we want to, Matt, you want to save the Schellenberger stuff, the homelessness stuff, and for the next one, maybe?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, cool. We'll do one closing one here. We
No Zinn and Epstein list.
no, well, way to bury the lead. Goodness gracious. Yeah, so we won't go Zinn. We'll save that one. But we will do you know, we'll spend a little time on some Epstein. Okay, all right. So we just found out yesterday that apparently, guys, listen, no big deal. JK, LOL. There actually was no nothing really. Epstein wasn't trafficking kids for anybody. Just, you know, it was all just a big misunderstanding for the last 7 years. No big deal. The tweet that we have here comes from our friend of the program, Sovereign Bra. I need to get him on here at some point. He's a real good dude, but he basically shared this. Breaking Department of Justice consider Jeffrey Epstein case now closed. No further documents to be released. To which the Sovereign Bra remarks, wow. And that is definitely, I mean, it is just staggering, the level of things. I mean, just the other day, a video purportedly outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell was released. Ironically, somehow they didn't think this was going to be caught. 1 minute of footage is removed from that video.
Did you see the highlights from the press or the?
I did.
Like the meeting room thing with
Yes.
Trump today?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
did.
Trump